The Ghosts of Fort Santiago. Fort Santiago in Intramuros, Manila is one of the Philippines' most historic and haunted sites. Built by Spanish conquistadors in 1571, this fortification has seen centuries of murder, torture, and death. It was used as a prison during the Spanish colonial era, a fortification during invasions, and a notorious scene of misery during World War II when the Japanese controlled the Philippines. Given its deadly history, it is no surprise that Fort Santiago has developed a reputation for paranormal activity, with numerous ghost stories and strange encounters linked to its grim past. Historical background. Fort Santiago, located within the walled city of Intramuros, was initially built to defend Manila against foreign invaders. Throughout Spanish administration, it was used as a prison and torture chamber for Filipino insurgents, including the country's national hero, Jose Rizal, who was imprisoned here before being executed in 1896. During World War II, the Japanese used Fort Santiago as a terrible detention center, torturing and executing many Filipinos. The dungeons, in particular, were used as cells where inmates were imprisoned in horrible conditions, with many dying of starvation, suffocation, or execution. After the battle, the fort was kept as a historical landmark, but its reputation for being haunted has persisted, with visitors and locals reporting sightings of restless spirits and other unexplained events. Paranormal activity. With so much death and misery in its history, Fort Santiago is said to be haunted by the spirits of those who died within its walls. Here are some of the most well-known ghost stories associated with this ancient fortification. The ghost of Jose Rizal. One of the most well-known spirits reported to inhabit Fort Santiago is that of Jose Rizal, the Filipino revolutionary hero. Rizal spent his final days at Fort Santiago before being executed by a Spanish firing squad. His cell is still a focal feature of the fort's haunting, and many visitors have claimed seeing his apparition pacing along the fort's walls or standing calmly beside it. Others have claimed to feel an overpowering sensation of melancholy and misery upon visiting the spot where Rizal was imprisoned, as if his ghost is still present, mourning the loss of his homeland. The moaning of tortured souls. Despite the fact that the dungeons beneath Fort Santiago have been abandoned for decades, visitors frequently report hearing faint moans, cries, and the rattling of chains. Some have also felt an overwhelming sense of fear and panic, as if they were reliving the inmates' last moments of misery and suffering. The Lady in White is another well-known ghost who has been seen at Fort Santiago. She's frequently described as a Spanish woman in a flowing white gown who wanders the fort's grounds late at night. Some think she was the wife or lover of a Spanish soldier who died tragically at the fort, and her ghost is always hunting for him. Witnesses have claimed sighting her near the fort's old chapel before disappearing into thin air after a few moments. The Lady in White is supposed to exude sadness, and those who view her frequently have an unexplained sense of melancholy. During World War II, the Japanese conquest of the Philippines resulted in great cruelty at Fort Santiago, with many Filipinos and captured resistance members murdered by the Japanese Imperial Army. Some tourists claim to have seen ghosts of Japanese troops patrolling the grounds, typically dressed in full military uniforms. These apparitions are occasionally observed standing guard around the fort's entrances, only to vanish when confronted. Others have described hearing the sound of boots marching in unison, even though no one was present to generate the noise. Personal encounters. A long-time Fort Santiago security man described his personal paranormal encounter. One night, while making his rounds near the dungeons, he heard what seemed like a weak but unmistakable voice begging for assistance. He went to investigate, thinking someone had wandered into the restricted area, but discovered the dungeons were absolutely empty. However, the voice persisted, becoming increasingly urgent, and the guard felt a chill run down his spine. He hastily left the area, believing that the voice came from one of the many tormented.